Boom, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum because they are forming a nice reaccumulation channel, something we've been watching for a little while. We're also going to take a quick look at Binance and Avalanche and Link, also doing something very similar, and I love to see them lining up like that. Ren, what a sweet little baby that's been lately too, and I think it's interesting to watch these market leaders for comparative analysis. So we're just gonna dive right into it. Okay, so as per usual, I start my day off by remembering that there is a large picture here to look at and that the longer time frames are a much smarter way to look at the ecosystem as a whole. Now, we're going to start off with Bitcoin here. We did see, okay, again, spring test LPS. Great. I know where I am now. Let's go in a little closer. We see this nice rising gradient channel here. This is really fun for a few reasons, and we see it somewhere else too. We see it in Link. So Link is on a smaller time frame, but here you see the rising gradient channel. The reason this is important, what I want to go over here and we'll use Bitcoin as the example, is its relevance in the market sentiment. So this is another accumulation range. So here you have the selling climax, the automatic rally, your first secondary test, your spring, and now you have your first LPS area. So what we're looking for is something like this, a smaller backup before a final breakout. It's going to be the first clear indicator to those that don't yet already know we are in a bull market. Now I'm going to sideline here really quickly and take a look at the S&P 500 just to prove my point. We are actually only, let's see here right now, more or less like a press 2% away from the all-time highs in the S&P 500. 1.98% from the all-time highs in the S&P 500. Once we have a little bit more confidence in the market and stability, I think we're going to see a doubling of the S&P 500. Now, strictly conjecture. I do believe that has to go along with stimulus, and I don't think that they have much choice. But really what we're doing here is measuring the sentiments of the market. So I believe we're going to break out of this high, do another little backup SOS, and continue on higher. Something very similar to what we would see in our regular accumulation channels. Now, I want to be patient for this. And it will probably line out here near the elections to where we get that stability. But for Bitcoin, I actually think it's going to somewhat come sooner, not because the market is going to start a bull market sooner, but we're going to get that backup phase show up sooner. So as we'd gone over before, for those of you that are studying, the backup phase will probably go somewhere between $14,000 to $16,000, and you'll see your SOS will go to $14,000 to $16,000, something like this. And then what you'll end up getting is your backup. Very, very common, and I'll actually just use a few that we can look at right now that show that kind of categorically. So if we look at, which was a really nice one, yeah, Link here, Ethereum. Here you go. Just to go over this again, your SOS out of the box and then your backup. Beautiful. This backup phase is important because this is usually reaccumulation. And if we look closely, that's what we can see. So I'm actually going to share, not that chart. Where is it? This one here. So here we can see what I think we're seeing in Ethereum right now. This is from the Wyckoff Analytics page. Shout out to them. We're redrawing our own versions of these, but they are providing some of the data. I've taken some of their courses. Good guys. But anyways, point of this story. Here we go. This BCARST and then the drop in the resistance channel is, I believe, what we're witnessing here as well. So BC drop into your smaller accumulation range. So now that we're in the smaller accumulation range, I'm keeping a really close eye on this trading range because as soon as we break out of that, I'm going to start opening my long positions. I would rather buy into the market and give myself the time and the patience because remember, this trading range here is only 15%. It's not that big of a deal. No need to get all panties in a bunch about the experience itself. So let's take a look. I had another good one here I wanted to highlight. We went over it yesterday in the private group in one of our calls. And I wanted to point out that these backup phases can take a little while. So I think it was Waves that was had this really nice short backup phase. Okay, yeah, there it is. I have so many ideas I'm watching. So here you can see the SOS and then this backup phase, which came down to the lower rising gradient of the channel before you had another big SOS come out and produce like 100% results. So this is effectively where we are in Bitcoin. In my interpretation, we are somewhere around this area here. We're going to get an SOS to around $14,000 or $16,000. We're going to have a backup phase, and then the real fun begins, probably somewhere closer to March. So I'm keeping my eye on this. These are going to be big signals for me to very much so extend my position. I do buy weekly, as I've mentioned. This is my consistent entry into markets is extra capital goes in at a weekly basis or whatever you can afford, whenever it's easy, monthly, whatever happens to fit your budget, whether it's $10 or 10,000, doesn't really matter. It's all dependent upon your personal space at that moment. So if we go back to Link here, we see this very similar rising gradient channel. We've broken through the mid-range here. Again, I suspect we're going to run up to the top of the trend line here, do one more, get an SOS, and then a breakout again, probably out in the middle of November. So what's fun about this is actually this confirms the thesis we had earlier, which may not bring a Link as low as we had initially originally anticipated, which is like between $4 and $8, somewhere down here. This rising gradient channel actually may be indicative of a wave 4 ending, and it may go sideways for a little bit longer here again through November, just to give us a little bit of awkward accumulation taking place. Now, Avalanche, I wanted to point out as well before we move on to the Binance token. Avalanche has been forming this really nice trading range here. We can see the start of a head and shoulders taking place as well, which is also potent, obvious reversal signal for those of you that have been studying. Here's the shoulder, here's the head, and here's the other shoulder. This is going to push us up to the top of the box. I do believe we're going to get the backup phase like this, and I do think Avalanche is going to continue through a bull cycle just because of how powerful the technology is. I know some of the people that have invested in this stuff, and these are not small players by any means. It's not like, oh, hey, Joe from down the street, how you doing? No. Well, maybe Joe, but not Joe from down the street. So, it's another story to think about in your mind there. So if I go now and I finish off with Binance, because this is one of our DeFi plays as well, alongside Algorand and a few others. Obviously we've got Ren, LRC, Kava, Band, Fetch, all still on the board here. We're watching really closely. I'm going to take a look at Binance right now. So we saw Binance come out with the primary SOS, the backup phase. This LPS is actually left over from before, so let's just rename that. So we'll put this up here. This is our backup phase now. It's important. I think it's important to always be labeling these so you guys can make use of your educational time here, because there's lots of momentum in this time. We saw this really beautiful reaccumulation range start to take place here with Binance as well. So let's just go over this one more time because I think it's extremely valuable. We'll go back to this page. Here we can see this second one, this reaccumulation with a spring action. It's flatter sloping formation. Yeah, sloping down. Boom. Oh, look at that. We got that. Okay. Lower lows of the spring of the TS. Okay. And leading stocks exhibit term weakness. Okay, so we got that. Perfect. So here we go. The creek here is a little different, guys. It's not just your moving averages. It's generally something like this, more or less, right? So what we want to see now is this run to the resistance, the back up against the creek, something like this, probably while Bitcoin does its thing like that, and then an explosion outwards. And I'm looking for around 40 to 80,000. So I did start rebuilding my position in Binance yesterday. For those of you that were on the private bear call with us, you would recognize, we just did a group call. It was kind of impromptu and off the cuff because I had some extra time between while I was waiting for my jacuzzi to fill, which I'm actually going to put and fill with ice today. Decided I was being a little bit of, so I'm going to fill it with ice. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm feeling too comfortable lately. So again, here we go. Your PSY, your shakeout, your BC, your and again, another shakeout, your secondary test, your support, your resistance, your spring, your jump across the creek, your standard SOS, and LPS is after that. So we have that, the BC, the ST, the AR, your secondary tests, your jump across the creek into resistance here. Again, this is the important part. And then we're probably going to have this little range down. I would suspect probably into the VPVR here as well, another clear indicator. And then again, on the daily time frame, I do suspect that Binance is going to print us something quite nice to be a part of. So we see some obvious resistance here. Now, because these are illiquid products, we actually usually go a bit higher. So I'm putting my range upwards of around 44 to 46,000 for this next SOS on Binance. So we'll see something like this, and then another backup into the regression line, and then probably another bigger move later out into the year when we see the rest of the bull cycle actually start to take place. And I think so, at the end of the day, guys, what we're trying to do here is really take long-term positions. Like, I built most of my position down here. I did exit, but only because I have the time to do so. But effectively, you're looking for something that can go this long, and if you're looking at what? That's like a 300% potential there. So what I do is I just always base risk off what I'm willing to lose through that for what I'm willing to make. We will go over some trading videos, some educational stuff about leverage. I don't suggest anyone use it unless you're extremely advanced trading. Like, analysis is up to par because it can be dangerous for you. Don't do it. Don't play with exotic instruments if you're new to this sector. Just buy. We're in a bull market, ladies and gentlemen. Just accumulate. We're still in the accumulation range. Like, look, this is still in the accumulation range. We're at the bottom of the box for almost all of these, right? Even in the backup phase here for Ethereum, this is still the accumulation range. Same with Bitcoin. This is still the accumulation range. So don't forget that. I think it's really potent to remember that we're in accumulation still. There's no reason to be distributing. There's no reason to go short yet. We've got a long ways to go to get there, probably the next 2 to 5 years, depending on which of these products and exotics you're looking at. Again, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope that was helpful. I will be back tomorrow. I've tried to rush today's video a little bit because my next door neighbor, for some reason, is cutting down all the trees. I moved into the middle of the jungle to get away from stupid people, and they're everywhere. You can't defeat it. They're like ants. They're just anyways. So I wanted to make sure I got this out while they were in their quiet little bit of a downtime. Thank you guys all for supporting us. Again, if you want to join the private group, just go ahead and do it because there's no risk. If you're not happy, we'll just give you a refund. It's super simple. If you can't make value out of it, it's probably your fault. Yeah, so we get lots of great feedback and review. I think most people, what they get wrong is they get excited about day trading and think that they can make $1 million like tomorrow. Any good market cycle and any good market analyst who's looking at the short term is probably not all that good. To be kind of blatant about it, it is all about the long term and the big movements that come through a market, and we are just starting a bull market still from March. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a fun one. Thank you guys all for joining us today, and we'll give you a little bit of an outro logo, and we're going to do some fun stuff. We're going to keep doing some more fun stuff and more educational videos as time allows. So that'll be exciting. I look forward to it.